Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly market outlook and SG stocks discussions on the 29th August 2021. So as usual, we are going to talk about the market outlook for the US indices and to look at how the US would perform for the rest of the week. Then we are going to talk about the Singapore market and see how the Singapore market would move the next week. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart right now. So let's start off with the US indices. Okay, so as mentioned last week, the market will be looking at Jackson Hole, where Powell, the Fed chairman, will be discussing on the tapering of the QE program and also the interest rate. So what happened is that he mentioned that the interest rate is going to hold, but the tapering would happen towards the end of the year. So what happened is that the US market cheers on his announcement. So let's take a look at the Dow. So if you look at the Dow, after hitting the high of around 35645, it pulled back to retest its support level at 34712, which was pre-drawn. So this support level was good as it held, and it managed to rebound nicely towards its resistance. So this, as mentioned, this 35645 is a minor resistance right now. So when we were discussing Dow, it was somewhere around here as we managed to see some rebound, but yet to hit the high. So Dow was at this candle last week, and then we were looking at the Dow to retest its minor resistance. However, it fell short of expectation, but nevertheless, it has closed well last week, and it still has a chance to continue higher to retest its resistance. So if we can break out from its resistance, of course, our target at 35696 is achievable. And if we can break out from this target, then our next target will be around 36469. Next, let's move on to S&P 500. S&P 500, if you remember our target, so if you follow through this video week by week, this is where you will realize or you will know that we have a target at 4542, which S&P 500 is moving towards that target. So we can see that this S&P has closed strongly above its previous high, now another all-time high, and we can see potentially anticipate more upward movement. If so, then our target could be hit. Nasdaq outperformed as it hit our our target level already, and this is where we can see Nasdaq has broken out strongly from its minor resistance, which was created last week at 15403 to hit our target at 15438. So as usual, if we use the same method to do the projections, we do expect the Nasdaq to perform even better if the market continue to be bullish, and the next target is a very far one, which is around 15824. Okay, so let's see whether our target at 15824 can be taken out in near future. Now let's cross over to the Singapore market, starting off with the STI. Our STI is facing a daunting task. So what we are looking at is that we have lower highs and the low seemingly broken. So tomorrow we have a very good chance to recover. So if we can recover and free up the gap, the first thing that we must recapture is this 3127 minor resistance, because by recapturing this resistance or retesting this resistance, we would form a mini double bottom for potential recovery. So next week is very crucial. So we have to, of course, if I were to go through step by step, we have to free up this gap. Then going forward, we have to capture this resistance at 3127, break out from there, break the resistance. Then we have a potential upward movement towards the next target at 3172. Okay, so let's see whether we can achieve that next week. If failure to rebound or capitalize on the bullish momentum from the US market, then and break low again, if it breaks below 3071, then we have a next support, which is a pretty far away one at 3024, which may be tested. So if so, then we may see our banks and other blue chips will spiral down to their support level as well. So let's move on to the individual stocks. So we shall start off with the banks first. So I will just launch the bank chart. So you can see here, this is the DBS chart right now. This particular day, last Thursday, DBS actually provided a glimmer of hope, but unfortunately, it got resisted by this previous uptrend line, which now turned as a resistance as it kept down and pushed back towards its previous low. So now we see a minor resistance at 30.55 and a minor support at 29.84. So last week, as I mentioned, if you recognize this, I need DBS to close above 3040 or even higher, but unfortunately, it opened there, but it closed below. So you can see here is that it got resisted by this previous uptrend line, which has been resisting it pretty nicely. And what we want to see going forward is that if it doesn't test its support level at 2984, then we have this upper level to test, which is 3055. Then next is that it must cross back above this trend line in order to return back to its bullishness. OCBC, pretty ugly chart over here. We are seeing a lot of black candles, a lot of uncertainty, where higher opening tend to lead to a lower closing. And OCBC right now is trading in this support zone, where 1145 to 1156 is the support zone for this OCBC. So OCBC has to be able to hold at this 1156 in order to have some chance or hope of recovery towards this minor resistance at 11.82. So we need this resistance to be tested in order to start a new trend or change a trend, because from now we can see a short-term downtrend for OCBC and a pretty uncertain one, because as I mentioned, we tend to have higher opening but lower closing most of the time. Seems like the market is not favoring this counter as yet. So it's a pretty daunting task for OCBC to form a new trend for now, but we got to watch out for next week how the market would react, and then how OCBC would react. Which level did it close is very important. Next, we shall move on to UOB. So UOB, we can see that UOB has a nicer chart compared to the three banks, the other two banks. But overall, we do face challenges as well. So first, if you take a look at the chart, we do not have a very bullish outlook as well. No doubt. Why do I say that UOB has a nicer chart? Because it is still relatively at the top, and then it is right at above its support level. So what we have here is that UOB, if it breaks below this support level at 25.64, it breaks down. The next support level will be around 25.05. If UOB would rebound from this low and ends above this candle, then we have a chance for it to test this minor resistance at 26.31. In fact, it's a zonal resistance, I would say. 26.31 to around 26.41. Okay, so the banks has to have a good showing next week in order to help the market to recover. Okay. Before I go on, I just want to just have some recap or just some sharing where some of my friends or clients has feedback about my analysis about I keep saying white candle, and many of you who doesn't know what is even white candle or don't even know technical analysis. So basically I am I am trained in technical analysis for many years, so I'm more uh, leaning towards the chart, looking at the price action, and then see in critical levels through support and resistance. Where when support breaks, it tends to go lower. When resistance breaks, it has a chance to go up higher. So these are the things that I tend to do for the past 15 years, ever since I have attended technical analysis training in 2006. Okay. So before I go on, just want to add on something to help you understand this video better. And this is where I'm going to, call out my email. So my email lately had been updated with extra information, and I'd like you to take a look at this email. So my email has included this construction of the candle, where we are looking at how the candles are formed. Okay, so here we are looking at the candle body. So the white candle body with open at the low or lower opening, followed by a higher closing. So this gives you a white candle body. Then we have a black candle body with a higher opening and lower closing. So what's so important between these two candles, or what's the difference, is that when we have a white candle body, this tells us that throughout the day there are more buying pressure. So more buyers are willing to pay the stocks at a higher price. So therefore pushing the stocks higher, higher, and higher, and help it to close higher. So it's only then the stocks has a good chance to continue its momentum to go for new high. As for example, like Nasdaq, I have been presenting in weekly video, and then what we have is that during the day high and day low, these are shadows. So day high and day low, these are shadows. So what we have, so the shadow represents uncertainty where the longer the shadow, it tells us more uncertainty. So vice versa, if you look at the body, it tells us certainty. So from these candles, we can tell and judge whether the market is biasing towards the bullish side or the bearish side. Okay, so together with the volume, it can help us to understand likely where the market is going to head to. Okay, so let's go back to our chart. So you can see here is that the UOB has a long upper shadow and a black candle closing. So seemingly this is a bearish day. But of course, we must reference to our support level as well. So if this support can hold, which we see a white candle the next day, then we have a good chance to see some more rebound. Okay, so we need a white candle to negate this black candle in order for the stocks to go higher. So let's move on to the transport sector before we go to the tech. So we have SIA last week retested its resistance as we very much anticipated, and this resistance failed to break as SIA pullback. As you can see here, that we have a very significantly long upper shadow and a black candle. So this tells you that during the day itself, we have been facing a strong selling pressure. Even during the intraday fight back, the market cannot sustain. So especially at the resistance level, this tells us further weakness, potential further weakness, as this may be a sign of more pullback. So if there's more pullback, then the support level will be around 496 to 494. Okay, so next we are looking at sets. So sets has immediately pulled back to its support level, and this is a very important level, I would say, because if sets cannot hold at this support level, then we may see the potential uptrend uh, diminish or negated. Okay, so here we are looking at a crucial week ahead of for sets, and then here we want a rebound. Okay, a rebound from the support level and a good closing to around 413. So in order to help sets to recapture the high. So the high right now is at 421 to 422. Okay, so we are looking at the an uptrend if it can do so. If fail to do so, the next support level that we may see it get tested is 3.95. Then we have SIA engineering gradually moving in the direction of uptrend. So hopefully it can move up and sustain higher, where 2.23 is one of the important resistance to be tested. So if you can keep up the good job, let me draw a parallel trend line over here. As we can see, SIA engineering, if I were to extend this trend line further, then we can see it has to go over above this trend line in order to sustain higher. And if you look at this upper trend line, so once it cross above this, it will meet the 2.23 resistance, and then once it cross, we may have a longer term uptrend with the next resistance above 2.23 is 2.30. Then we have Comfort Delgro, which on Friday went up but closed lower. So what happened is that he has announced winning a contract. I think the contract in New Zealand, but unfortunately there are COVID breakout in New Zealand. So I'm not sure whether is there going to be any delay. But nevertheless, Comfort Delgro has a resistance at 167 to test and break. So if you look at this candle, definitely it doesn't look bullish as it open higher and close lower. So this long black candle coupled with the volume suggests further weakness. So if so, it may fill up this gap. Now, if it doesn't fill up this gap, then it will be a good sign. And of course, we need it to test 1.67 resistance, then ultimately 1.7. Then moving on, let's cover the tech. So the tech mostly are the movement for the techs are capped. As we can see, AM rebounded slightly above its 50-day MA and its support level at this 3.88. And we can see that the candles during these days has been fairly uncertain. As you can see, long upper shadows, and we have a fair shares of lower shadows as well, but the upper shadow suggests the uncertainty in its upward movement. So going forward, we really need a solid white candle to push the counter above this 4.04 level in order to be able to capture back its resistance at 4.24. Then we have Franken. So Franken is consolidating right now, waiting for its next breakout to happen. So we do see a sort of like a symmetrical triangle, and once if it can break out above, then we can do a projection where Franken has a potential target to hit is 2.45. Then if it breaks down, then we have 1.96 target. So either direction that Franken may move. But given the recent result and the bullish outlook, Franken has more chance to break out upwards compared to its downward movement. Okay, then I would like to touch on Nano Firm. So last week I mentioned Nano Firm has a bearish flag, and now it has been indicated as we see a buying action continue to push the counter higher. So last week, if you were looking at this video, I mentioned that there was a bearish flag pan formation, and only when if Nano were to break below this low at 3.75, then we may see more downward movement. But there are some corporate actions coming in where the company continue to support its share price, and also similarly to Temasek, which they have upped their stake from 5% to 6%. So therefore helping Nano Firm to sustain higher. So Nano Firm currently has hit the high of this around 4.5, and it is consolidating for the past 2 days, looking and waiting for the next course of action. So if the corporate action by the company itself and Temasek has stopped, and the market is going to decide the next course of action, then we have to really look out for the sign from the market. So what's the sign from the market? Will Nano Firm forms a double bottom formation? So where you're going to retest the low at 3.8 before it rebound back to 450. Nano Firm is going to break out immediately and charge towards the 5.32 resistance at the 100-day MA, or should I pull out all the rest of the indicator? And you can see that In fact, from 4.90 to 5.5 will be a cluster of resistance. So which is going to be. So we're going to watch. So next week about 4.5, it has to break out from there. If not, if we pull back, so we see how it pull back. Okay. Now, next we are looking at this Union Gas. So we can see Union Gas had a very strong fight back, and the volume is strong. So for the past 2 days, it has been consolidating, right? And it has gone slightly lower, and the volume has been declining as well. So this form a bullish flag formation, and we are looking at a potential breakout that may push this counter back to its 123 high. Okay, so what happened to Union Gas? It has proposed to buy over one of its similar uh, industrial peers, and this has actually been a cheer for the market. So Union Gas managed to recover right away from the low of 71 cent all the way back to the high of 102. So this 75 million takeover is going to complement Union Gas business and is going to help to grow its EPS. So we will be looking at a further growth from the company going forward. So if so, the share price should be able to appreciate further. Next, we are going to talk about this Sarin Tech. Okay, so Sarin Tech, we are looking at a consolidation for the past 2 days with declining volume, and going forward, it should break out above 73 in order to continue to move higher to 82.5. So the breakout at 73 should have a surge in volume. So bears is around 4 million. And then we really have a chance to see Sarin retest the resistance at 825. Okay. So next we are going to look at this or revisit this counter called Samudera. So if you remember some videos ago, I've been covering this, or I had covered this Samudera shipping, and this counter was in the uptrend, and it is still in the uptrend. So it has broken out strongly to the high, and this is where it has actually exceeded my target. Okay, my initial target was at let me just recap where was I on Samudera, and let's recap. Let's go back to this chart over here where we were looking at 5-1. Okay, so the target that we are anticipating for Samudera is 5-1. So did we see 5-1? So I must retake my words. So 5-1. So it hasn't exceeded my target as yet. So I thought it has already exceeded. So let's look back at the chart here. So this counter is almost to 5-1. So you went to as high as 50 cents. And then if it can continue, it should have no chance, or rather, it should have a very good chance to retest 5-1. Okay. So this Samudera is looking bullish, and we are looking at it to hit 5-1. So let's look at the next counter. We have UMS. As I mentioned, it was on uptrend. The uptrend seemingly still intact, as you can see this 20-day MA over here, where UMS is still hugging at this 20-day MA. So, but it can't continue to hug like this. It still need to have a convincing action where it must close above 172 and retest 178 in order to continue higher. So UMS, the key movement is above 172. Now, last but not least, we have ISDN that I'm going to touch on. ISDN is struggling at the low. As you can see, it failed to recover after heavy sell down. And we are looking at this counter trying to bottom up. Okay, so if it can bottom up, so how is it going to be? So it should go back to this minor resistance at around 665, break up from here. Okay, so break up from this 665 resistance, then we have a minor target that it may rebound to, so which is around 715. So next week is very important for ISDN to retest its resistance. This is a very good counter as the result shows and the outlook was bullish. So like I explained last week, the selling could be due to the tech sector dismay in Hong Kong. And but I checked the Hong Kong chart, isn't that bad at all. So let me show you the Hong Kong ISDN. It is still doing very well, trading at 4.68. So if we were to convert the 4.68, okay, ISDN is doing or trading above the Singapore market. Okay, so market price. So I'm wondering why the Singapore market is this weak. Okay, so let me just try to do a conversion to see what's the value of ISDN in terms of the Hong Kong dollar to Singapore. Let me just show you. Okay, over the screen over here, we are looking at, right, if ISDN is trading, or right now is trading at 4.68 Hong Kong dollar, it is actually at 0.81 Sing dollar. But our Singapore share price are not doing well. So will the ISDN Singapore recover to follow the Hong Kong side? Or will the Hong Kong side follow the Singapore ISDN? So my take is that if Hong Kong side is to follow the Singapore side, it should have already fallen right now. But we are still seeing the action pretty flat at the top over here. Seems like there's no trading. So maybe Singapore side has a chance to recover today. So to that level at 8.1. So if so, then it has to break up next week or the next following week. All right. So with this, thank you for seeing this video or viewing this video. I will see you next week. Have a good week ahead, and then take care and good day to you.